Uncanceled Comedy Collective presents Top Censored News of the Week. It's Top Censored News of the Week, bringing you the stories the mainstream media refuses to cover. If they do cover them, they always do it in a very dishonest or sloppy way, and it's always on purpose. I'm here with co-host Craig Pasta Jardula, and we're going to get into the top three stories that they didn't want you to be knowing about or talking about. Here we go. Coming in at number 3, Miss Rachel has been denied housing in New York for 3-year-old double amputee survivor from Gaza. Let's see the breakdown on this one. Here we go. Yeah, she's been denied the renting. 3 New York spots she went to apply for. Obviously, she has the funds to do it with her, I guess 1 billion people now. If you add up all of the platforms she has from YouTube and all the rest of them, it comes up to almost 1 billion people have seen her or have liked her or have watched her. So that somebody did that total. And they're not giving her a place for this. And this is a symbolic gesture. Clearly, they're saying to her, no, you can't actually help Palestinians physically. You can talk about them. We'll mock you and belittle you and have the ADL come after you, but you're not actually going to be able to do anything if you're trying to actually save one of their lives, which this little girl, she took under her wing to do that. Here is from Where the Peace. Yes, this was yesterday. Miss Rachel shared that she attempted to rent 3 venues in New York, celebrate Rafa's birthday, but was turned away 3 times. She made sure to state that there would be no press, no photos, no videos, and that she would rent out the whole venue for the birthday of a girl who was evacuated from Gaza so that they could try and make it extra special. The first business owner stated that she would have to think about it because it's really complicated, leaving Miss Rachel heartbroken, trying to find another spot. The second spot agreed, but then canceled just 2 days later due to the safety of our staff. She said that the venues didn't want Palestinians from Gaza there, which is illegal, right? Yes, we all know that. Finally, on the 4th try, a business was ecstatic to have Rafa, where they ended up having the birthday party. So this was three strikes you're out, but the 4th time actually did work. I will throw this up as well. This is interesting timing of this story, but this was, and again, we talk about the smears of Miss Rachel as she tries to do, activism and have discussions, and she has such a huge audience. She wants to talk about helping children all over the world. It's not even political. She says she wants children to be healthy, safe, and well around the entire world. Obviously, they're not doing so well in Gaza. She knows that, but we have outlets like the New York Post that just loves to smear her, even when she gets recognized as one of the women of the year, as they put in the headline, anti-Israel actress Rachel Zegler and YouTuber Miss Rachel named Glamour magazine's women of the year. So they are smearing her even in celebrating her. And then this is where it comes down to, I mentioned the ADL earlier. So she's the 40-year-old mom. Her name is Rachel Griffin Akurzor. Meanwhile, continued to amass a commanding following on YouTube. Oh, they're saying she's been watched over more than 10 billion watches. Wow, that's insane. Now they've been both the women have been dodged by controversy last year. Both became outspoken about Israel, Hamas. Zegler famously caused chaos for Disney after she posted, and always remember, Free Palestine. And then that we had that whole Snow White thing go down. That was with Rachel Zegler. But this part is important. The Anti-Defamation League notes that the seemingly benign rallying cry, which is Free Palestine, has at times been used to intimidate and attack Jews and Jewish institutions to justify violence committed against Jews globally. And of course, they cite these incidences, which we've covered on the show, that it was shouted by accused DC Israeli embassy assassin. The guy, you guys remember that, where he said Free Palestine, and that looked very suspicious. Why would you yell that as you've murdered 2 people and you're turning yourself in? As well as in Boulder, Colorado, same thing. There was that firebomber who also randomly decided to say Free Palestine after the firebomb incident. So that's the part that's important to the New York Post. But again, Miss Rachel doesn't quit. She doesn't apologize. She keeps going. Craig, what are your thoughts on this. Is this a big deal, not a big deal? I mean, clearly we're not going to hear that part of the story in the New York Post or any of the other news outlets.
Well, to me, the story is the fact that the mainstream media is not stopping, right? They're still going. They're going to keep their, shame game. You're an anti-Semite if you do anything to help any Gaza children whatsoever. I mean, in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's the main story, that they're holding the line. They're not going to go away. I mean, you think that there'd be like a little tone down of rhetoric, what's going on after the whole Charlie Kirk thing, and so many conservatives and people on the populist right who are pushing the fact that it was the state of Israel and the Zionists who did it. You know what I'm saying? Do you think that you'd have a little bit of a quelling of sorts? No, they're going to go full-fledged. Listen, there's still a lot of Zionist control of the media and, entertainment and TV and whatnot, and that's not going to change. So you won't see them ease down. You're going to see them forge forward, and this is a proof of that, And it's kind of cool because I haven't heard Mrs. Rachel's name in a while until you just brought that story up. I was like, oh yeah, that's the woman, whatnot. And so it's great. I'm glad to see that she is still marching on, doing what she's doing, and even the fact that she just tried to provide a good time for a child. There'll be no videos, no pictures, no press, no nothing. We're gonna shut them out. We just want to make it extra special. I mean, it's just a shame they wouldn't even let her do that.
Yeah, and those are violating laws. Those are rental laws that they're violating. That's illegal. You can't say that you can't rent because of a Palestinian background. That's not okay. That's illegal. So, anyways, but mainstream's not going to cover that part. It's good that she did get the Glamour decided to give her the Woman of the Year. I think that's a good thing. But again, it just comes with more critique, more this anti-Zion, anti-Semitic YouTuber. She's called a YouTuber, right? Because when you're called a YouTuber, it kind of lowers your level of activism, which she's more of an activist at this point. And she's in education. She's she's a teacher. So they should say teacher and advocate for human rights. Then maybe YouTuber third. That's what I would say. I mean, if you can be honest. But that's Miss Rachel, and she keeps her head up. Craig, you remember we covered her, like you said, it's been a little while, and she was in tears for a moment. She's human. She's gonna emotionally respond to this, and we can only imagine what that's like, having that weight on her shoulders. But this was her right after this incident, and she seems like she has it together, and she's composed, and it's good to see this.
Painful, but I always think about what people in Gaza are going through. I think I also think about what kind of pain I would feel if I knew that I didn't say anything and could have helped.
And that's just a woman with integrity, courage, and no regret. Says that the only regret that would happen is if I didn't do what I'm doing. Then I would regret because I could have done something more with the following that she has. And that's the sentiment we want more people to have. So good on her for that. And then Adam E. Media, he's just awesome because he always lets us know. Miss Rachel said she'll risk her career to advocate for children in Gaza. I stand with Miss Rachel. There you go.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the number 2 story coming in on Top Censored News of the week. The number 2 story: Hurricane Melissa devastates Jamaica, shows signs of possible weather modification. Oh, you're going to like this one. Here we go. We got to cover this. We got to cover this story. Here we go. This is from CBS. Hurricane Melissa devastates Jamaica, Haiti, and Cuba. At least 28 dead. This is as of today. That number is going to climb, as we know. That's how these things go. People across northern Caribbean are beginning to dig out from the destruction of Hurricane Melissa. The deaths of the catastrophic storm climbed to at least 28 across these three areas and the Dominican Republic as well. Thursday, Melissa was moving away from the Bahamas and it turned towards Bermuda, where weather conditions were expected to rapidly deteriorate later in the day, according to the National Hurricane Center. Then Hustle Bitch is on the scene because we could have just stopped there and said that's the end of that story. Actually, before I read this, let me show you. Actually, I'll put this up after. I was going to show you guys the. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do the damage. You guys just need to see this, just so you know how bad it is. When we see things like this, it reminds us of North Carolina.
Lahaina.
It reminds us of Lahaina. Even parts of the LA fires had similar overhead shots like this. and on this massive scale, sometimes there's a thin line between water and fire as far as the results go, whether it's hurricane or fire. But
You see the sharks swimming through the streets?
Oh, I missed the sharks.
I mean, the water came up so far on the shore and stuff, on the land. There was a lady like, look at these, the sharks. And there was 2 sharks literally swimming through like the streets and stuff because so much water had come up. And, nothing's going to stop 185-mile-per-hour winds. I don't care what kind of structure you have at this point. It's going to get torn and destroyed. So 15-minute city coming soon to a Montego Bay near you.
That's the story, Craig. You said you 15-minute city. So we're going to look at this. Again, we didn't do a full.
It was on the list, Matt. You didn't see it. Come on.
We're saying it shows signs of possible weather modification. Well, first of all, where are those signs? We're gonna look at it right now. And then we always have to ask the follow-up question. Why? If it was weather modification, why would they do that? So let's take you guys through this and do the job the mainstream media refuses to do. We'll start with Hustle Bitch because he's on the scene on this one. This ain't just Hurricane Melissa. This is Operation Popeye. That's a quote he's taking from a viral clip which came out of Jamaica. It's blowing up as a local man claims the storm hammering the island isn't natural at all, but part of a U.S. weather control program first used during the Vietnam War to seed clouds and flood enemy routes. Interesting. That seems to be a theme today, Craig. What we do over there is what we do over here. And we're not just talking Jamaica. We mentioned Lahaina and LA, and we're talking 15-minute cities. But hold on. We'll walk you guys through it. Let's hear a little bit from the local that Hustle Bitch shared out, and it has gone viral. Here we go.
So which one is it? Is it Hurricane Melissa or is it Operation Popeye? Maybe a lot of you don't know what Operation Popeye is, right? A lot of you might not believe that they are seeding the clouds to cause flood in certain areas because, like I said, with war, you need to know earth, air, water, and fire. And this is something that they use also in the Vietnam War 1967, right? Because you can use it to flood certain areas so you can have control over, especially like the trade routes. I know right now Venezuela have a pipeline, with the Russian thing, right? So the real thing that they're not talking about is why all of this military presence in the Caribbean waters. What's happening in the Caribbean waters now? You know what a red herring is, right? So oil and minerals, all of these are red herrings. This is not the reason why these people are going to war. It's just like what happened with Iraq and all of these countries. What they did not want is it was not about the mineral in the earth. They wanted to install Rothschild's central bank in these countries. So they destabilize them and control them and install the bank. So now once they have control, once they have their banking system in your country, it does not matter who sits in that seat. So as long as there's a central bank in your country, those same families control your country. Doesn't matter who your prime minister or your president or your chancellor is. That's what this is about. And the last country they wanted to get was Iran. They can't get it. They tried to move through Syria to move closer to Iran, but they lost there because what? Russia went inside there. So America had to pack up all their military stuff, millions of dollars, and they just had to run. They not even could have saved their equipment. Those are millions of dollars. So what's happening in Venezuela right now? You think they care about the oil? Really?
Well, this guy seems to know what he's talking about, and Hustlebish finishes out the tweet, saying, "Yeah, he's that the dude he's saying is too still, it's too obedient. The military ships are crowding the Caribbean, ain't there for aid, they're there for control. Because guys, it's the same place where we're going into Venezuela with all the warships. This is happening right in the same Caribbean Sea. They're not there for aid, they're there for control. According to him, the talk of oil and minerals is just a red herring. The real war, once they have their banking system in your country, it doesn't matter who your prime minister is. Those same families control your country." He warns this isn't about weather, it's about empire. Possum.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. You know what I'm
A little bit of
saying?
both. Okay.
I always believe that that's part of it. Listen, when we talk to a lot of our friends who are involved in Tavistock, and they talk about, I think it was Operation Phoenix, where they took a bunch of people in northern Vietnam and moved them to southern Vietnam. And it was part of a social experiment and to see how they would interact inside society. There was still a group of oligarchs and ruling class that said, okay, well, if we move these people, we invade this country, who gets the oil and the silver? So I still think it's just a grab. I think it's commodifying every little ounce of what's going on. Yeah, the banks want to get in there because the bank means ultimate control. But there's other families right below them, thinking of them as smaller cartels or smaller gangs that will get all those other resources as they go in. So, then the 15-minute city, right? Destroy it so you can build it back in your image while you make the money and you then have control. So I like I'm saying, it's every little bit. Right now we have a vulture ruling class, and every little bit of commodification that could happen on every little resource or any little thing is going to happen. And that little small group will get their piece.
Well, let's get to the 15-minute city. If you haven't heard of this, because I just found out about this, but this again, we think about Lahaina, we think about LA, and this is more from Hustle Bitch. He says the smart city hurricane, Jamaica's category 5 reset has exposed. The officials launched, it's called Vision 2030, a UN-backed plan to turn Kingston into a fully digital smart city. And now the island is being torn apart by Hurricane Melissa with 185 miles an hour winds at 892 MB pressure. Meteorologists call it unreal, maybe because it is. A storm this precise hitting as Jamaica shifts to AI infrastructure, biometric IDs, and centralized grids feels less like coincidence and more like collaboration. Old Jamaica erased, new Jamaica connected, surveilled, compliant. The timing isn't a coincidence, it's a blueprint. Is this really a natural disaster or an engineered reset to fast track Vision 2030? That's Vision 2030, Jamaica. You guys can look it up. It's on, I don't have the website here, but it's not, he's not just making this up. This actually exists, just like the getting ready for the Olympics here in LA. And the 15-minute smart city plan with Newsom has already put that into place. And we know what happened in Lahaina. You and I were both there in Lahaina. We saw that whole thing go down. So even if people want to think it's a coincidence, it's still happening one way or the other.
Yeah. That's the important part. Disaster capitalism. There was a book written about that whether it was planned or not, there's still a whole vulture society ready to come in and to grab all the resources and control once the disaster does happen. Because in this particular situation, there's going to be people who left that area, who fled, who are staying on another part of the island, whatever the case may be, that will never get back into the once place they once were. And that will be controlled by the real estate developer, whoever that will sell that off to what's going on. So now it's just like in Lahaina, in Maui, right? In Jamaica, in parts of that Carolina. It's very easy for the person to go in now and just start the whole construction on the 15-minute city. It's very easy there. And that's what they want from all cities across America eventually. But they want to blueprint these and start these in practice, right? Like you practice overseas so the chickens come home to roost. They're practicing in small pockets. So I think you hit it on the nose, because I didn't see a lot of evidence of weather modification. Obviously, he makes a great sale there. It doesn't seem like coincidence as all this has been planned and now all of a sudden it's happening, right? It's almost like in Lahaina, right? The keynote speaker for 15 minutes of sustainable cities, was Governor Josh Green 2 months before the Lahaina fires. I mean, it seems too coincidental, but I'd like to see somebody like Dane Wigington speak about it and talk about it and see, what was going on with the air, with the wind, if there was some types of signals, whatnot, to give us a little bit more evidence that it was a weather modification tack.
And you know what? I agree with you, Craig, on this. I just ask people, if we just step one step out from this story, just take a step back. We have to wire ourselves differently when these things happen and understand that it's okay to ask these questions. That's all. We didn't say in the headline, absolutely. I'll put it up. I'll put it up again. We didn't say this is definitely 100% checks out as weather modification. We're saying it shows signs, and we're allowed to ask those questions and look into it. We're allowed
you
to
should ask those questions.
And by the way, what's the difference between this and if you keep getting your ass robbed, if your car keeps getting broken into and the same shit gets stolen every single time, the same break-in, and you already know that one time it was your crazy ex that did it, do you think you might have that person as a suspect on time number 5 or 6 or 7? I'm just saying, let's have all suspects on the table, and don't tell me, well, you can't prove it right off the bat. You're a little emotional right now. Maybe you should wait before you start coming up with who do you think did it? Maybe the person that's been doing it every single effing time, or at least has shown they're capable of doing it at least once. We have the technology for weather modification. We know we have it. The news used to tell us about it because it was so awesome that it existed. They need to ask this question. Why do we have to do their job? That's my big problem here, Craig. Why can't they say, oh, let's look into this? Oh, that looks weird. Weird timing. They had this. We have the technology to do this. We should ask that question. That's why we have to do it here, because they're not doing it on mainstream.
I think you make a great point when you say it's a question that needs to be had, right? And I commend you for it, because a lot of times I think the issue is some people will say it's a weather modification no matter what, and then there's a group that says if you even talk about weather modification, you're canceled. So you have both those sides. Yeah. We should be able to put it on the table. This is like the common, this should have been the common practice of COVID. We should have been able to talk about things. Yes. Why can't we at least talk about this?
Yeah, exactly.
And I commend you for doing that, for putting it on the table. We don't know for sure, but you need to ask that question.
We need to ask the question.
And here's a lot of evidence behind it saying this is what they're planning. So they need an event like that. Is that coincidental? Well, let's look into it more.
Well, this couldn't have led any better into our number one story on top censor news of the week. Coming in at number 1, the FBI blocks Tulsi Gabbard's office from investigating whether a foreign power, I'm wondering which one, was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. This is the spin as far as Daily Mail's concerned. The headline, at least, is telling us that Kash Patel shuts down Charlie Kirk's foreign intelligence probe in explosive feud with Trump's counterterror chief. Well, that's he just probably got in a feud, and they had to, kind of distance themselves. The guy must have been totally anti-Semitically just crazy, and Kash Patel just needed to distance himself from this crazy assistant of Tulsi Gabbard. Well, let's look a little closer at this. What's actually happening? I'm gonna friend of the show. I mean that in jest. I'm kidding around, but we have met in person. This is Jackson Hinkle. This is for you, Craig. This is for you. Breaking: the FBI blocks Tulsi Gabbard's office from investigating whether a foreign power was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. According to the New York Times, per anonymous insiders, Patel has crushed efforts by her closest advisor, Joe Kent, to investigate whether or not a foreign power was involved in the assassination. Kent's investigation alarmed Patel, who believed the counterterror chief was overstepping by interfering with an ongoing FBI investigation. After Patel discovered Kent had gone through FBI case materials related to the Kirk killing, a tense White House meeting was held to discuss the matter. Roundtable meeting between Patel, Kent, Gabbard, and Vance, not to mention the White House chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and the senior DOJ officials as well were all at this meeting at the White House. Trump's administration officials were worried that Kent's probe might provide ammunition to Robinson's defense lawyers, who could get them to argue.
That's what they're concerned about, right?
Right.
That's what they're concerned about.
They're concerned. Yeah. This is what they're putting out publicly. But Jackson Hinkle backs it up with these pictures, and I think that says more than any words could possibly be said by mainstream media on this issue. So that's the story. It's how you want to phrase it, really, is where we want to go with it, Craig. I do have some more materials to show you from the very shady FBI. Do you want to see those, or do you want to comment on this?
Go ahead.
Okay. So the topic being shady FBI handlings, we've seen time and time again since this assassination. Mishandling is a good way of saying it. just accidentally mishandled it, accidentally gave us a text message chain that didn't seem to make any sense whatsoever between the suspect and his whatever trans lover who's now disappeared miraculously. There's been time and time again Kash Patel telling us that he's not actually willing to do the job. Now we have a closed courtroom from press, and any more evidence, he assures us the evidence will be submitted in court, but the public will not see it. Do you want to know what else the public's not going to see? And neither the courtroom will either. Well, according to an innocent attendee at the assassination, and this is why we tell you guys, the FBI is not our friends. They're not working with us. I know Hollywood tells us differently. Hollywood tells us the FBI is working with the public to get just the right evidence so we can go make the raid, make the P. Diddy raid, make the raid on the, on your, assassin or serial killer. We're all working together. Not true. Look what happened to this guy. Sorry, wrong one. Okay, I'll get to that one in a second. Look what happened to this guy from Shadow of Ezra, a witness to Charlie Kirk's assassination, now says Kash Patel's FBI told him to delete his footage of the incident, which could conflict with the Bureau's official account. His name is Ryan Simmons. He says he sent the video to the FBI. Shouldn't have done that. They're not your friends, Ryan. They're not your friends. He was believing he was helping, but was instead told to erase it from his phone because it might trigger PTSD. Agents would later call him to confirm if it was deleted. Simmons says he has now saved and archived the footage on his hard drive. Here he is telling us himself what happened.
When I sent this video in to the FIB for tips, I thought I was doing a service and, to Charlie and helping out. So it started off where I got in contact, was talking to someone at the local field office there in my local state. And then it jumped up a few levels. Then I was talking to someone on the national level. That person had called me back and they had said, because this was your friend, I think it's best that you erase the video from your phone because it's just going to give you PTSD. And then called it another time to ask if I had erased it. That was the first time that I felt like it was even right to post these videos that was on my other account that was gone. And just was removed after 5 years of building it. But so I got a call back and was asked to confirm that it was gone. And again, that's when I started sharing, posting, and saving on many different hard drives in many different places. It's been crazy. It's been rough.
Okay, now I'm gonna back that with one more. Now that we've established that the FBI doesn't want to have all the evidence available and they want to tell you to erase it, and we don't want that evidence, and we know that the evidence has been no longer going to be submitted, so the public won't have it, even though we know there's independent people doing the job, and you can criticize Candace Owen all you want or Max Blumenthal all you want, but people doing the job, gathering stuff, guess what? People are sending them stuff because they don't want to send it to Kash Patel because they know how they're going to be treated if they send evidence to Kash Patel. Here is another important piece of information that I can tell you, Craig, by my deductive reasoning skills, I can tell you if Kash Patel has his hands on any of this, he's certainly not going to be giving it to the court or to a jury that's going to be looking at this. But this is also from Shadow of Ezra. Candace Owens releases footage showing Turning Point USA staffer Terrell Farnsworth rushing to film a selfie video moments after Charlie Kirk was shot, prematurely declaring him dead. This is the same guy. He's a very close friend of Kirk. He's also the individual who removed the overhead cameras just minutes after Charlie was shot. And Shadow of Ezra puts this video out, which is the actual, I'm going to show you guys the actual selfie, which is on the left side of the screen. It's a selfie video. He did it literally as they were rushing Charlie's body to the SUV to be sped away with the tinted windows. At the same time, you can see him on the right side of the screen removing camera equipment from the scene of the crime, which we know was bulldozed over in the next 36 to 48 hours. Here it is.
They just shot Charlie. They just shot Charlie. They just shot Charlie. They just shot Charlie. He's dead. God help him.
So I'm going to have to correct my previous statement from a few weeks back, Craig, when I said the very first person to report that Charlie Kirk actually was dead was Netanyahu, followed by the Times of Israel, followed by the White House. I have to correct that now. It seems that this dude, Charlie's close friend, was actually the first person to report on his death as his body was being transported away. Nobody else knew he was dead, but this dude knew. Okay, I will pass it to you, but this is about the FBI. Can we trust them? Why are we not having these conversations? Why are investigations being cut off by Kash Patel? What is he trying to protect?
Well, you got to speculate on what he's trying to protect, right? And I think we've kind of been weighing who stands to benefit the most, right? I think a lot of what Charlie Kirk said now, for people who follow Charlie Kirk, who went to a lot of his events, who believed in what he was saying, they're digging their heels in even deeper now when it comes to what Charlie was said. So more of those beliefs, I think, where a lot of them will push back against and starting to get shunned and starting to say, and even Charlie himself kind of, maybe kind of starting to pivot away from what Israel was doing in the Gaza Strip and whatnot. So I always look at that, who, is going to benefit. But, we've talked about this at several times. Obviously, Israel had a lot to benefit. They didn't want a loose cannon getting out of their hands, someone who was a great recruit for them, maybe was starting to see the light and they couldn't have that. We talked about how divisive it is in America. People really got emotional about this, really upset. So, I mean, who is the FBI trying to hide for? It definitely seems like there's something there. I don't know if we can put our finger 100% on what's going on. And, who knows? This guy, from seeing that, the first time I saw a picture of Charlie Kirk getting shot, I said, there's no way he's surviving that. In fact, I was texting back and forth with Leslie, right? And I was like, and even Les says, no, Pasta, if that was real, he's not around anymore. So maybe what he saw was like, that was it. Oh my God, Charlie's dead, Charlie's dead, Charlie's dead. We don't know. He was really emotional. But at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that the FBI is definitely hiding something from us. You know what I'm saying? They don't want us to get to the bottom of what's going on, whether it be one entity, one foreign government, people working together, whatever the case may be. They are trying to hide something, right? And once again, I mean, look, if we're not going to get full, transparency on the Epstein file, what makes anybody think we're going to get transparency on this? So,
this is the Epstein file is exactly the blueprint. You see Kash Patel going through the exact same situation where he has to maneuver. He has to punch down at people, call people conspiracy theorists if they ask questions, cut off investigation, lie to us, tell us Epstein killed himself, case closed. There are no files. This is exactly what he's doing here. He's saying this is a open and shut case. He's bragging, Craig. I know you've seen him going around bragging about how we did this in 36 hours, as if the public cares about a race, like it's a race to the finish. Oh, thank God you did it in 36 hours. We thought it was going to take 72, and that we would not have been okay with that. No, you're giving us a hack job and acting as if the public demands speediness. No, we demand accuracy. So you're showing us the same signs that you do not care for us to see the truth on this. And then the question is, who are you protecting? And it seems like it goes back to the same place, Craig. And we're not saying 100%. We're saying we have to look at Israel. We have to look at the fact that you can't have that you're literally cutting off this investigation in foreign entities before there's even a court trial. This doesn't make any sense at all. We know that there's something shady here. And I think we should keep our suspicions open on all levels. But anybody that's being attacked right now for doing this work and asking these questions, again, it goes back to our theme of this segment of Top Censored News, is we should be able to ask questions without being called names. That's it. And we need to be on the right side at least of that. And I think we can agree on that part.
Yeah, we definitely agree. And I said right now, the big question for me is, and I think people should have the same question, is what is the degree of separation between Zionist and Western elites? Those bankers, it's all in one of the same people. I mean, because, a lot of times you say Israel has a lot to gain, but so does America. You know, like I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were talking about a lot of things that going on, and just the outright type of business and money that is transferred into the wealth of Western elites when it comes to these occupations, these wars, these situations. You know what I'm saying? It's off the charts ridiculous. So I think that's the big question we need to ask ourselves right now. How many degrees of separations are there between European elites, Western elites, you know what I'm saying, Zionist? Is it all the same? Do they collaborate together as one zooming one? I mean, it definitely does seem at the end of the day that the Zionists are at the top of that, you know, hill and dictating a lot of things. You know, when you hear people like Ray McGovern talk about the fact that every single member of Congress has something that's being held against them by a Mossad agent, and then you hear, you know, Thomas Massey talk about every single congressional member has an AIPAC representative, every single one. You know, it's not too far-fetched to believe that, you know, that's the top of the pyramid. So, you know, I think these are questions we need answered, you know?
Yeah. Well, we'll round it up with this. This is just, if people don't know this, these Mossad agents love to brag about their control of not just our country, but all over the world. They love bragging about it. The ex-CIA, the ex-Mossad agents. This one particularly, he's an ex-Mossad chief admitting on camera that Israel has planted booby trap bombs in most countries on earth. How deranged do you have to be to even say this on camera, unless you think you can just get away with it? And maybe you can. Maybe you can just get away with it. Here it is.
Surprises in Gaza.
Surprises?
Yeah.
You mean intelligence surprises?
Pages, walkie-talkies. Do you know how many equipment, I mean, treated equipment do we have in these countries?
Mm.
You don't. I do.
You mean you mean booby-trapped equipment?
Not only booby-trapped.
And spying?
Manipulated equipment. All right?
In which countries are you talking about?
All the countries that you can imagine.
And not Gaza?
Not Gaza. Not
Nothing
enough.
in Gaza at all.
Did you see that? If we had it, I mean, we knew something about them coming. Something, right? I would have sold them everything. Just everything. I mean, you can't imagine, I mean, the quantity. When I have invented that method, that was in 2002 to 2004.
The pager method.
The manipulated equipment method. Okay? We have already used it. Manipulated equipment in Second Lebanon War. Some of the elements were speaking to us.
How did you use it?
Want a glass of water?
We can get some brandy.
He can tell you, but he doesn't.
I know it's an early morning in London. I mean, I don't think that is the case. But how did we do it? I tell you.
Yeah, they like to gloat about it. So take it for what you want, you know, grain of salt. But this is the type we see this all. This isn't the first time we've seen this type of gloating of control and power. So not to alleviate we're not taking away any blame from any U.S. involvement in Charlie Kirk. We know that obviously the FBI is guilty by at least by association, carrying it out. You're gonna, if you were being tried in a court of law, everybody would go to jail for their partaking in it. So, and that includes Trump, obviously. So we're kind of saying the same thing, but the bottom line is the public's not going to just be handed this information. We have to go find it ourselves. And that's what we should have learned our lesson by now. We have to go find it ourselves. And that should do it for this week's Top Censored News of the Week.
Of the week!
All right, Keith Overman.